Ladies and gentlemen, shall we begin? Thank you for coming today. My name is Paul Wright. I'm the director of the Center for Information Technology Research in the Interest of Society, CITRIS. The last time I had the honor of being on this campus with many friends in the room, we were launching the California Telehealth Network. The governor and many other luminaries were here that day, and so it's a rather pleasant surprise to find myself back here only 3 or 4 weeks later, describing the way in which the SCHEME conference is going to interface with that California Telehealth Network. What I wanted to say briefly is that in this slide here, I wanted to stress how much CITRIS has felt connected to the California Telehealth Network, and we have been investing our own research money to enable a number of projects to begin. So over the last 2 or 3 years, overall our CITRIS seed funding has amounted to $4 million, and I think probably 25%, $1 million, maybe $1.2 million of that money has been devoted to various kind of healthcare projects that would link in with the UC Davis Medical Center, Jeff Wright's campus at UC Merced, Professor Ben Yu's main campus at UC Davis here, and Pat Manti, who represents the University of California in Santa Cruz. What we've been doing is encouraging our faculty to work with the CTN, to work with clinicians, to apply for the seed funding shown in the left-hand side of this. It's usually about $75,000 is a seed funding project. Pilot projects begin from there, where proof of concepts are developed, and then usually funding from the National Science Foundation or funding from the National Institute of Health leads that into certain kinds of core projects. And then very recently in our headquarters building on the Berkeley campus, we're just about to open this incubator where many of the projects that are formed on the left-hand side of these graphs can be launched into small businesses. The function of CITRIS, as it was started by the previous governor, Gray Davis, if you remember his name, and the previous president of the University of California, President Dick Atkinson, they had this vision. It's kind of a nice vision that the general public in particular doesn't see some of the brilliant work that's done throughout the University of California, and we have our own role to play as academics to make that more visible. And CITRIS is one of those organizations that intends to take the brilliant work that's done in all of our laboratories and get it out for the good of mankind on the CTN, and also to start small companies. This is a slide that my colleague Steve DeMello will show again. What he has done in this slide, this is all of Steve's work. I'd like to thank him for showing this. These various bubbles are some of our projects that have been funded with our seed funding. They involve a number of devices, sensors, software, and telehealth network projects. Some of them, like the CellScope project, which is number 19 here, are just beginning to launch into companies, and so they're in this. They're ahead of the pack here. This group here is the seed funding work that Jeff, Ben, and myself and others, Ming Wu and Steve, got together recently in February and decided. And this group here are the previous seed funding, which are mostly now well funded by other core projects. So that's really where I wanted to leave this today. I wanted to stress that the various research projects that you'll see being spoken about today are in these groups here, and our role is to try and get this integration between the various clinicians, some of whom I see here in the audience, with the physicists and the mechanical engineers and the electrical engineers to get these projects really humming along, and this meeting is about that integration. So thank you very much for coming. On a more sober note, I'd like all of us to spend 10 seconds wishing Tom Nesbitt's family love and support. He just lost his father-in-law late last night and can't be with us here today. And like all of us, I'm sure all of us are family-oriented, and we feel touched by that moment. And if you get a chance to see Tom or to wish him well, I think all of us would like to do so. So Tom won't be with us today, but he asked me to convey his sincere thanks for coming. And in his stead, Steve DeMello is going to introduce our distinguished speaker. And just so for the moment, I'd like to hand over to Steve, and he'll launch the major part of the project. Thank you so much for coming today. It's a great pleasure to be here, and I very much look forward to be a participant in your work. Thank you, Jonah, for coming. Steve. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for making the time today. We know it's a busy time of the year and that you've got a lot of conflicting demands. Really appreciate that you could take the opportunity to spend the time with us today. Our hope for the day is that we can accomplish three things with you. The first is to give you some good and valuable context about healthcare in general, state of California in particular, and some of the biggest challenges that all of us face in trying to work in this area. And Jonah Froelich is going to be our point person this morning to help us walk through that. Secondly, we'd like to share with you some exciting plans and work that we're doing at CITRIS that we hope will provide a higher and better level of support for the healthcare activities that you are all involved in. And finally, and most importantly, we're trying to create the opportunity for clinicians and researchers to get together, take a look at what they're all doing at this point in a number of major areas, and also have the opportunity to make some new connections as well as reinstate some old ones. So with that in mind, what I'd like to do is move directly to introducing our keynote speaker for this morning, who is Jonah Froelich. Jonah is the Deputy Secretary for Health Information Technology with California Department of Health and Human Services Agency. He's leading the Schwarzenegger administration's efforts to achieve statewide electronic health data exchange, uniform interoperability standards, and adoption of health information technology such as e-prescribing. Jonah has long and varied experience in healthcare and IT. His career has included work with the Division of Research at Kaiser Permanente, with the Brown and Toland Medical Group, and most recently as a Senior Program Officer for the California Healthcare Foundation. He earned a Master's in Public Health from UC Berkeley, a Bachelor of Arts degree in Economics from McGill University. So please join me in welcoming Jonah Froelich.